Hey everyone! Today I wanted to go over some Punisher comics that I have. Let's see, I got some new ones today. Here we go. Marvel Knights #1, which is not quite a normal comic. It's like it's like a bunch of little previews in one comic for the Marvel Knights, like, banner of comics Marvel wanted to do for a while. I haven't actually read it very much yet, but it is interesting that Punisher doesn't appear to be his, like, the undead avenging angel Punisher that was the first Marvel Knights Punisher. And then some other stuff. I'm just gonna go over a bunch of the weird little, like, one-off Punisher things and crossovers, team-ups, and things like that. So here we got Marvel Tales starring Spider-Man and the Punisher, which I think this was this is like a reprint of one of the earliest appearances of Punisher and Spider-Man. So that's cool. We got some What If comics. What If Age of Ultron with Captain America as Punisher. I haven't read this in years. I don't remember what it's about. It didn't stick with me. This one is a little weird. What If featuring Wolverine, where it's Wolverine is like in the 20s, 30s, and Al Capone is in it. And it turns out Al Capone's scar on his face came from Wolverine's claws. And the reason I don't quite know if this fits in is because I don't really know if it's even supposed to be Punisher. Like, Wolverine puts on a skull shirt and he's like going after bad guys, so it's kind of like a Punisher thing. I don't know. Whatever. I'll count it. And here we got what if the Punisher #1, where they had Peter Parker become Punisher for a while? It was okay. I don't know. It's a really weird thing. It just came right out of nowhere, and then they never really did anything with it afterwards. What if the Punisher's family hadn't been killed? Which is a very fascinating look into an alternate world. I love the What If comics, especially for the older Punisher comics and Marvel Universe in general, because there's so many really fascinating little things that could have happened, and I think the What If comics did a great job of uh, showing what that could have been like. And here's a weird one: what if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires? Um, all right, I think maybe they were running out of ideas, but this is only 24, and it went on for quite a while after that. Yeah, it was an okay comic though. It's just, who came up with that? What if the Punisher had killed Daredevil? It's okay. What if Venom had possessed the Punisher? And most people remember this not so much for the story, but because Venom Punisher looks really cool. It's an okay comic, but yeah, the visuals are definitely what stand out about this one. What if the Punisher had killed Spider-Man? This is a pretty good one. I like this one. It's really good. It's a really fascinating story. Really like this one. This one isn't really a comic. It's, oh, here's an empty board bag. Okay. I don't know what that's doing there. Marvel Age with a preview for the live-action Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie. That's cool. And here's an appearance that Punisher made in Spectacular Spider-Man 141. Again, I haven't read this in, like, years. This is a weird one. The Mangaverse, or Mangaverse, whatever, Punisher comic manga. This one is really, really bizarre. Let's see. Frank Castle isn't in this. Instead, we got this woman here who, let's see, she's a teacher or something. And then there's these bad guys who resurrect an Oni demon in the basement. She teams up with this girl who dresses like Bucky for some reason. And then she goes and, oh yeah, she spanks the bad guys with this paddle. Alright then. And she doesn't have a skull shirt. Instead, she has a skull obi tied around her kimono. Yeah, it's pretty out there. And so here we got Punisher Acts of Evil. This is another one of those weird things that came out and just, like, there it is. It's okay. It's kind of cool to have Punisher and the Brood, but I don't know why they thought this was a cool thing, or they never followed up on it, with at least not with Punisher, so whatever. Oh, here's another Marvel Age thing. I don't know, I guess they covered Punisher in it. I don't remember much about this one. And for a while in the 90s, Luke Cage made some appearances in Punisher, those infamous issues where Punisher turned black. Remember that? That was something. He also showed up in Luke Cage's solo comic. You know, I have actually seen some other issues of Cage, and like, some of them are okay. They're kind of similar to Punisher in the 90s. They're like gritty crime drama stories, and then there's occasional supervillains in there, but yeah, I like Punisher a lot more than the Luke Cage comic. Like, Luke Cage, when he's Power Man and Iron Fist, that's cool and all, but when he's just solo and looking like a normal guy, it's just, Like, he needs yellow on him, dude. How do you redesign Luke Cage and not have yellow? Okay, Nomad. Nomad is actually a pretty cool, underrated comic. So you've got number 5, which guest starred Punisher, and again, someone dressed like Bucky. Whatever. Yeah, that was a weird... I don't know why the kid was dressed like Bucky. I've read some other Nomad comics, and Nomad is pretty good. Definitely an underrated, like, flew under the radar comic in the 90s for Marvel. And then here we got another weird comic that I haven't really heard much about, Night Stalkers, which was like a Morbius spinoff, I think. Anyway, Punisher's apparently in this one, but I can't remember for the life of me what this comic's about. I don't know. And here's a really nostalgic one for me. Incredible Hulk 395 with Punisher guest starring. Love that cover. That is a really creative cover. Mr. Fix-It's glasses reflecting the Punisher firing at him. This was one of the first Punisher comics I found. Actually, it was one of the first comics I ever owned. I found this in the basement of the bookstore, bought it, and I freaking fell in love with it. I loved the 90s Hulk comics. I loved Punisher. He's freaking awesome, and everything in this comic is just so freaking amazing. And it's not a self-contained story, but for years, this was the only, like, Incredible Hulk comic I had, and I loved it. So, yeah, really happy to own this one. Really, really cool comic here. And here's a pretty silly one. Punisher teams up with Power Pack. Alright then. Yeah, in the 90s, if a comic was floundering, put Punisher in there. It'll sell, and yeah, they would put him in freaking anything. Punisher in Power Pack. Definitely not going to see this today. Or at least I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do that. This would be like if the new Spidey and His Amazing Friends cartoon suddenly guest starred Punisher. Which wouldn't be, like, unheard of. He did make a bizarre appearance in Superhero Squad, of all things. And here we got, let's see, Deathlock and Punisher. And the second part of Deathlock and Punisher, let's see, this is a mini-series, Similar Machines. Let's see, I had this one back when I was a kid, and I only found the second part of it very recently. So yeah, only very recently did I have, like, the entire story here. I do like Deathlock. There's, I think, a couple of collections of the old Deathlock comics, which I'd really like to find. And then next up, let's see, Daredevil, Dead Man's Hand, which had Punisher in a couple issues of that. I don't know if he was in, like, every Dead Man's Hand miniseries, but he was at least in these two, which are the two I have here. I think I might have actually found more of these Daredevil comics and given them away because Punisher wasn't in them. I don't remember for sure. Most of this is just going to be me saying, I don't remember this, because it has been a while since I've been able to sit down and read my comics. So next up here we got Ghost Rider takes on the Punisher. Part 1 of 2, part 2 of 2. Yay. Oh yeah, and then this thing, Silver Sable number 10, guest starring Punisher. I do remember this one, but it's for a very silly reason. Let's see, I had found, like, a stack of Silver Sable comics at a yard sale or something. Pretty cheap, it was like $5 for the stack of them, so I bought the whole thing, and I was like, oh, cool, Punisher's in a comic, so I kept that one, gave away the rest because I just don't really care for Silver Sable all that much. But I read this one and was a little disappointed because it was just an extremely basic comic book story. It's one of those ones where there's a hero and another, or well, not quite hero, but close enough. They meet and mistake each other for bad guys. They get into a scuffle, and at the end they're like, oh, wait a minute, you're a good guy? Yeah, I've been telling you the whole time. Oh, well, I'm a good guy too, and you wouldn't listen to me. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And then they're like, well, this was a big, dumb misunderstanding, wasn't it? Yep. And that's this. Definitely not ambitious storytelling there, but it's fine. Okay, here's a weird one. Fred Hembeck destroys the Marvel Universe. Let's see. Will the Punisher destroy Fred Hembeck? So Fred Hembeck was a pretty popular artist back in the day. He's really well known for, I think, Mad Magazine. I don't know specifically what exactly. I know he did some Fantastic Four stuff, like mostly parody stuff. But yeah, this was a pretty funny comic from what I remember. The Secret Defenders number 5. Let's see, Roadkill is in this. And, whoever this guy is that, I don't think that's Roadkill, is it? New Warriors. Let's see, we got, oh yeah, Night Thrasher and Punisher up there, and, the rest of them doing something down there. Not super big into New Warriors. It's okay. I like New Warriors alright. Let's see. Guardians of the Galaxy. Punished. I don't think this one actually has anything to do specifically with Punisher, but they use Punisher imagery for this group of skull-chested guys. Huh. Something. Spider-Man Punisher Family Plot. This is a two-part thing with, looks like Ben Reilly Spider-Man there. Huh. I don't remember anything about that. I'll have to read this again. Witchblade and Punisher. This one is really, really good, and also very bizarre. Of all characters, Witchblade and Punisher. It works, though. It works really well, the story. Let's see. We have Witchblade as her human identity. She's transporting, or I can't remember now if it's her or somebody else, but there's a prisoner being transported. Punisher's hunting him down. He wants to kill him because this guy, like, deserves to die, and he's only being sent into prison, and he's like, no, that's not good enough. And in the end, let's see, Witchblade is trying to protect this guy from Punisher, but at the same time, she's conflicted because she's like, well, it is a bad guy. Should I just let him kill him? Yeah, it's a really good comic. Really like this one. Oh, this one's a favorite. Punisher meets Archie. Speaking of, like, bizarre crossovers. Like, the whole reason this came about was because, like, just a joke. Punisher made so many guest appearances in different comics, and of all comics you'd expect him to show up in, Archie, definitely not one of them, since it's not Marvel, and it's Archie. It's kind of lost some of its novelty now, because Archie is kind of known now for doing bizarre crossovers and just being really weird and out there. Like, if this were to come out now, it wouldn't really be that big of a surprise. It'd be more of a surprise that they'd be using Punisher more than Punisher's meeting Archie, because Archie's met, the Predator and Sharknado or something, and him and his friends have become zombies in a comic, and all these other weird things. So, yeah, this is a really cool, clever comic that utilizes Archie and Punisher's worlds very well. It's a really well-written comic, actually. Oh yeah, Riverdale tried to adapt this, but they couldn't get the rights to Punisher, so they had like a stand-in guy. It didn't really work for me, but at least they tried. I would love to see, like, the Riverdale cast meet Jon Bernthal or something. That would be a really cool thing. And this is a neat thing. Let's see. This is the Man, really dark cover on this. This is the special little bonus comic that came with the 2004 Tom Jane Punisher movie DVD. And unlike the Punisher movie adaptation comic, which was a really weird and crappy adaptation of the movie, this one actually stays pretty true to the movie. And also, they had all-star credits on this. Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Tim Bradstreet did the cover, which isn't showing up very well, but it's really cool. It's, dang, what was this guy's name? One of the bad guys in the movie, holding a gun, pointing it down. That's the other kind of weird thing is, yeah, Punisher's not even on the cover of this Punisher tie-in comic. Oh, this is neat. The origin of Microchip. Yeah, Punisher's old buddy Microchip. Freaking awesome. I really miss the old days of Punisher and Microchip, because those are the Punisher comics that most connected with me, where it's Punisher and Microchip, they're in the van, they're in the garage or something, they're putting clues together to track down and kill some bad guy, and then they go out and do it, and man, Micro was so freaking cool, and I liked him, and then Micro turns into a bad guy for some reason, then they brought him back as a zombie or something. It was really stupid and weird later on what they did with Micro, and yeah, since Micro, died in the 90s, I haven't really done a whole lot with him that I like. The closest to anything they've done with Micro that I liked was in the Punisher Warzone movie. Definitely watch Punisher Warzone. It has the best versions of Micro and Jigsaw. I don't even like Jigsaw, but if you're gonna do him live action, that is the ideal way to do him. The Jon Bernthal show, it was really, really good, but Micro and Jigsaw in that show might as well have been completely different characters. They were fine for that show, but they were definitely not very good representations of these characters as they were in the comics. Here's another Marvel Age thing with Punisher and Batman. Let's see. Oh yeah, Punisher did meet Batman twice. It was really weird. The first time he met Batman, it wasn't Bruce Wayne Batman. It was this other guy that was Batman for a little while back in the 90s. And the second time he was meeting normal Batman. Very unusual. And then here we got Spider-Man versus the Punisher, which was, if I remember right, this was like a remake of the initial Spider-Man comic Punisher guest starred in, I think. I don't remember for sure. I haven't read this since I got it. And here we got Punisher 2099, but not normal Punisher 2099. No, this is Marvel Knights 2099. This is from a weird alternate dimension where Punisher and Elektra, of all characters, had a kid, this girl here. And then she has a son, this guy. And this girl, Frank Castle's dead, and I think Elektra's dead, and she's trying to keep up the vigilante family tradition, I guess. And she's dying, she's trying to teach her son how to be a vigilante, and he's like, I don't know, Mom. And in the end, she dies, and he's like, well, I don't think I'm gonna do it, Mom, sorry. And then he just goes back to his normal life. It's a pretty good comic. It's a decent one-shot with original characters. It's pretty fascinating, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing these characters appear again. Next up, we have a couple of comics. Time Storm, 2009, 2099. Here's number 2, number 3, and number 4. I don't have number 1, unfortunately. And the reason I have these is because they feature a rebooted version of Jake Gallows, who was the star of Punisher 2099. I really liked Punisher 2099, and yeah, this was really cool. They don't do a whole lot with Jake Gallows anymore. There was a recent comic that I think featured him. I'm trying to remember, but they changed him a lot. He wasn't really the same character he was in the comic. In the comic, he was a super unhinged character, more so than Frank Castle. But in this comic, they just made him, just a mess, from what I remember. I don't remember now. Okay, whatever. Moving on. Here we got, let's see, another, oh, was it this one? 2099 The Punisher. It might have been this. I can't remember. I don't remember anything about this. I remember this was a big deal when it came out, because, like, yeah, anytime there's, like, a new Punisher thing, it's a pretty big deal with the Punisher fans, but I don't remember a thing about this. I'll have to read this again. And here's a collection of some Moon Knight comics that Punisher showed up in. All in a bag. I'm not going to bother taking them out. But yeah, Punisher showed up in a bunch of Moon Knight issues. And I really love this cover because, yeah, they're just trolling you. We got Punisher, Spider-Man, and Wolverine does not appear in this comic. That's awesome. I love that. That's freaking hilarious. And then here we got Punisher and Painkiller Jane. Another, like, really, what? Who's asking for this? Why this? This is like a, yeah, this is like a Kingdom Hearts level of, what? And again, like, yeah, not even, or, was Painkiller Jane even a Marvel character? I think she must have been, because there's only a Marvel logo up here. I don't see any other logos, so yeah, was Painkiller Jane a Marvel thing? I don't remember for, whatever, anyway, this is an okay comic. Oh, and it's a Valentine's Day thing, kinda, sort of. Kinda weird, there's multiple Valentine's Day Punisher things. Okay, and then right here, here's the recent Punisher comic run. At least the first, 6 issues of it. And then I lost interest and didn't buy anymore. From what I've heard, it didn't end particularly well. It was pretty stupid. And then last up, here's Punisher War Journal Blitz, which was a pretty good comic. I was surprised that they could get something good out of modern Punisher. And today they announced that there's going to be a new Punisher comic coming out, and it doesn't have Frank Castle in it, and it doesn't have Jake Gallows either. It has this new guy. I can't remember his name. He was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. guy. He's a blonde guy. He can have the skull on his shirt, apparently. Like, apparently that's okay again. It's really weird that, like, they went out of their way to give him this new thing, and then the comic ended, and now here's another comic with some guy who's not Frank, but, like, he can use the skull, I guess, whatever. I don't know what to think about it. Like, I'll keep an open mind. I like Frank Castle, I like Jake Gallows, I've liked other characters who've taken up the Punisher mantle, so it'll at least be a unique take on the character. Maybe. I don't know. It's not really what I want. What I would really love is for Punisher to just kind of go back to how things were done in, like, the 90s comics, or the Max series Garth Ennis comics. Garth Ennis was really good at writing villains. Unfortunately, when it comes to Punisher villains, the best ones, they don't stick around because they get killed. So, At some point in the future, I might go over more Punisher comics that I have. I have nearly every issue, I think. Painkiller Jane was one of the last issues I needed to find. Let's see, there's only, I'm trying to remember now. I think one of the summer special comics I don't have, or holiday special, back to school special. They had a bunch of weird Punisher, like, annual specials, because he was so popular back in the 90s, they were finding any excuse to put out more and more Punisher comics. So yeah, I think that's oh yeah, Punisher Soviet. I don't have all of Soviet because that came out at a weird time. It came out like in the 2019, I think. And so I was waiting for it to go on sale, but then 2020 happened and everywhere shut down and I couldn't find the issues because nobody had them. Oh yeah, and there was that one canceled Punisher Barracuda comic. Man, that's the most heartbreaking thing with Punisher that we've lost, is no Punisher Barracuda comic. Barracuda was freaking amazing. I loved Barracuda. I'd love to see a new comic with him, and hopefully maybe it'll get released. I don't know if they even ever actually finished that comic. But yeah, I've been going on for a while, so yeah, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.